Tshepa hore la e bona kaofela this profile, an abridged profile of Dr. Zulumathabo Zulu, a man with many titles, but very humble. A man with many titles, but very accessible. Ke tla thoma ka the first title, as we know him as a research scientist and director of Madisebo University Research Institute, which is what he'll be launching today, the course materials that he will be offering. Then he's also equally a fit doctoral practitioner. On top of that, he's a metaphysical scientist, a latelang cosmologist, motho o tlhaloganyang dinaledi, o ithutang ka dinaledi and all the cosmobodies. The next title is intellectual historian. And then you have to lexicographer, but that's what he is. And then a contextual poet, motho o kgonang go bua ka mantswe, who can atoloke ebile a tlhatlhobe ebile ka mantswe, and also capture truth in words. He's also an inventor. He's also an engineer, a problem solver, and last but not least, a published author. Ribuaka Dr. Zulumathabo Zulu, a humble man with many titles. I introduce you to him, and as he is going to start his presentation, before he does that, I'd like to share the program and the purpose of this session. Introduction of Madisebo University. Will be talking and addressing the charter and the courses. And the purpose of the Madisebo University Information Session is to inform you, Banabatari, about the following. The first thing is a Mopato, corporate university model. Is this university or this corporate that Dr. Zulumathabo and the directors have put together. The second point is the course offerings. So in detail, he'll be explaining the course material that he will be teaching at obviously his premises, and also engage you on the process that you need to follow should you have interest in registering and knowing and broadening your knowledge as Banabatari. Then the last one is the training modalities in accordance with the African origins of philosophy. So that's what he'll be addressing within the 2 hours. So without going any further, these are the programs that, or the course materials that he will be addressing. It's a Nkareteng, Basotho origin of metaphysics, Nahano Tsebo, which is Basotho origin of knowledge, and then Nahano Sene, which is Basotho origin of philosophy, then Mutako, which is African research methods, and last but not least, Nteterwane, Ditema writing system. Bagolo, Banabatari, if you see all of these course materials, one feeds into the other. Firstly, metaphysics, you have to understand how nature operates and works for you to gain knowledge so that you can produce philosophy and have methods. And from then on, you are able to have a writing system that captures all of this for the next generation. So we are truly honored to have Dr. Zulumathabo, to have spent so much time on this longitudinal study that will give Banabarona at least, a bit of foundation to start off where we failed. Very important and very, very powerful stuff. So without any further delay, I would like to give the mic, I would like to give Tobane, I would like to give Marapo, Mocholoko, hore a tla re bolelle a re latlhele mo fatshe, a re tlhatlhobe, a re fe ditaba tse tsa badimo di eme jwang. Mocholoko ke tseo.
Dumedisa, siyabingelela, uZulu Ndaba Ezitha wakamalandela. Isithuli sikaNdaba walandela inkomo zamadoda. ke le golokwe ke le kotswana la tlhaba go ka le mao la isa morena gorong la re bona morena ke hlabile ke motho wa kgetsi se dutla majwe o khatebe upungani umashwabade washwabadela inkomo nempondo zayo. That's me. So I have these many reeds. So I'm kind of like, you know, the river that, you know, the great river Zambezi, it gets larger because of the tributaries. Imagine the buffalo parents. So the mother and the father. They have one child who's a boy, a buffalo boy, buffalo child. So the mother proposes to the father and says, how about if we take our child to the lion school? Then the mother said, are you crazy? You take our child to a buffalo school, to a lion school? They're going to eat him there. And then the mother says, no, don't be silly. He will learn the lion way, and the lions will get to know him. And when they meet him on the road, they won't eat him because they went to school together. Then the father says, yeah, I suppose it makes sense. And then they decide to send their child to the buffalo school. They go there, they apply, they get accepted, and then the registration is done. And then from there, on the first day of class, the lion professor appears in the lecture hall, and then the buffalo student is the only buffalo student there. Everybody else is a lion student, and the lion professor distributes a course outline that is written clause 101. So after the course outline is distributed, then the lion professor starts, teaching now. He says, to do well in this course, you need to understand the rudiments of the clause. You're gonna need the clause in order to survive in the jungle. Sorry. And then, so the clause are extremely important. So you must make sure you spend a lot of time understanding the clause, memorizing the clause and the principles of the clause. Any question? And then the buffalo student raises a hand and says, I have trouble wrapping my mind around the concept of the clause. And the lion professor says, why is like that? No, it's not because I'm looking at my feet and I realize that I've got hoofs. I don't have claws. Then the lion professor, no, don't worry about it. It's just a matter of time. You will get it. Okay, and the class is dismissed. Now that was lecture 1. They need to do 3 lectures in order to graduate. Okay, then another day, another class. This is now lecture 2. Now the professor now gets into details about the clause. He says, the clause is governed by chemistry, so that means there are molecular actions that take place. And also there's a question of anatomy because the clause are attached to the pores. And also there's a question of physics because the claws have got mechanical properties so that you can retract the claw. And when you retract the claws, that puts you in stealth mode. Any questions? Then the buffalo student raises a hand and says, Professor, you say that stealth mode, retract the claws. We buffaloes, we don't have stealth mode. Then the professor says, what do you have? He said, no, we've got sineziki, renalidiki. We've got this, we stomp the ground. And when we stomp the ground, we create these seismic, vibrations. We vibrate as we were intended to vibrate. And the professor says, no. We don't want that. We don't want this, as his phone. And then the professor says, now, what are we going to do now? This is a student now. The student now, you see, is suppressed in the class. His vibration is not allowed. and the class, of course, is dismissed. So that was lecture 2. Another day, another lecture. This is now lecture 3, and this is the last one. After this, they write exams, and then they graduate. On lecture 3, then the professor now is talking about the application now of the principles. He says that now you are in the grassland now. You have already spotted an antelope. And now, and what's very important also is that you must remember that in the grassland, you need to bury your head beneath the ground, beneath the grass, so that, you know, and lift your nose so that you can pick up the scent, but they don't see you. And you must also put yourself in stealth mode. So that means you must retract the claws. And then from there, you must also make sure that you approach the antelope against the wind so that you can pick up the scent of the antelope, but it doesn't pick up your scent. Any questions? Then the buffalo raises their head and says, what about my big horns? And the professor, no, those horns, they are not good. We don't want those horns. Then he said, now what do we do? So no, we need to chop them off. Then he said, why my horns are not good? No, because those horns are too big and they're too visible and they're going to scare the antelope and the antelope will run away and we're going to starve to death. So that is the logic of the professor, lion professor. Now notice that the lion professor reasons are legitimate. There's legitimacy there, you see. And it sounds reasonable that, yeah, the horns are going to scare the antelope and the antelope is going to run away. And therefore, we need to get rid of the horns. You see, even the hooves, we need to undergo some surgical operation so that the hooves are removed. We are fitted with the paws, you see. And that's where the African student finds himself, herself. Yes. You see that the legitimacy I was talking about, the legitimacy that the horns will scare the antelope, that's a reasonable argument. But you see, in our schools, universities, they've got concepts like axiology. Axiology is about legitimacy. You see, it is about values. It is about ethics. It is about morality. But the morality of Eurocentricity, not the morality of the Africans. You see the difference? So they are teaching their morality that says that these horns are going to scare the antelope. So we need to chop off the horns. I mean, look even in medical science, the treatments that they give. They have these surgical treatments where they have to cut off the piece. And they have convinced us because they've got this axiologic system, you see. So this is how far we have become miseducated by the white establishment.